yes, as I was saying, with these talking videos I get a bit confused. I turn on the watch to track the effort, and I've got to turn on the video, I've got to turn on the bike, I've got to calibrate the bike, yada yada yada. Anyway, we're away, and I'm not going to mess around. I'm going to stay in 18 volt max with 20% increments, so 18 amp max, sorry, 18 amps is 100%, and then each level is 20% less, so level 4 is 80%, level 3 is 60%, down to level 1, which is 20%. So that's what I'm playing with. Going through some traffic now, and thankfully they were watching. Now, previous videos I've tried to show the screen, but really that's a bit pointless because it's just a blur. But anyway, so I'll get a bit of the horizon in, and up to level 3 and see if I can make the lights, and I can't. So we wait. And it's probably a good time to talk about comparisons of previous firmware and this one. And previously, as you stop pedaling, you'd get some run on. If you ghost pedaled, you'd get run on. And with this particular firmware, if there's not anything registered on the torque sensor, you don't get the run on. You will get a little bit of a whir from the motor, and it will probably be putting out, I don't know, I think it's about 60 watts or something, you know, 9/10 of bugger all, but it's not driving anything. It's just kind of that little whir, the motor's spinning. Yeah, so I don't know what to make of that. And you'll probably see, since we've stopped, I'll take my foot off the pedal, so it's totally clear. As soon as I put my foot on the pedal to go, which will be in a few, I don't know, less than a minute anyway, the bike absolutely leaps ahead, and then it settles down after about 3 rotations. Whoa, and there you go, did a wheelie. So you really want to make sure that if you're going to stomp on the pedal, you have it, and you've got, you know, your highest rating at the highest amps available. You want to make sure that you don't stomp on the pedal. That was level 3, and currently at level 3 I'm cooking along with 480 watts, and cadence allegedly is 70. I'm not 100% convinced of this cadence reading, and we'll go through into the information or test screen, and we'll see what everything says. So open circuit voltage 49. My little cheapy voltage meter said I had 53.3 when I turned the bike back on. Fully charged it was 54.3 at home. Used the standard 1 volt to get to work. And I'll just steady on down here. And so the sensitivity for the cadence is really quite good, and the torque sensor is really quite good. That car's slow. So I'm really enjoying that. And at this point, we'll just flick through get out. I'm going to go straight to level 5 now, because we've got serious climbing coming. And I'm going way faster than I should be for this bit of slope. And now we'll go back to test screen. Now, probably about 36 at the back at the moment. What would that be? Maybe 38. Don't know exactly what the increments are, but that's comfortable, so we'll run with that. And so here, the motor RPM saying 94. And battery consumption, don't care. Drive, this is it. Yeah, the pass speed on the drive screen is always a little bit more generous of my effort than the screen on the front. It says I'm doing what, 80, 90 here. We go up, and there it says I'm doing 80, 85 even when my cadence is lifting. So the drive screen still isn't talking to the footprint screen here in this corner. Alright, anyway, get back into the drive screen because that's where all the juicy stuff is. So coming out the first bit of ramp, well, not the first bit, but first bit of ramp on the official Woodland way. And yeah, it's, you know, reasonably significant, 10 to 13%. In many respects, this particular ramp I'm going up is the longest, not the steepest, but definitely the longest. Probably about 100 meters, probably around the 15% mark. Cadence 90 to 91. control the temperature, 52, 53. Level 5. Giving myself a little bit of a rest here. What are we in? Theory has it we're about 42 up front to 40 at back, and this one I think peaks at about 17%, but it's short. Yeah, oh yuck. Yeah, oh, getting comments on the Discord thread about the cut-in being slow, and certainly when you go over your set speed limit, it takes, depending on how fast the bike's rolling, what gear you're in, how quickly you get torque back onto the pedals. Okay, I'm one on one now, 42, Woodland Way, the killer section, which makes 20% easy. And I'll just stay spinning up, get a sense of what my cadence is. Ambient temperature is up to 60. I mean, not ambient, controller temperature, nearly 61. Motor RPM 91. Oh, this is the burny bit. I'll be quiet for a sec. Oh. Right, past speed 90, and that's it really. That's the worst of Woodland Way done. So I will hopefully have a good recording of this segment and be able to compare it to I don't know, 2021 CX Performance Line Bosch. I think it's a 21 Yamaha Giant Core, and I think my nephew's Merida E160 with the Shimano E8000. I think that was a 2019. May have been a little bit earlier. But anyway, the other three name brand bikes or name brand motors that I've got data to compare with. And then I've got my little hub drive, little rear wheel hub drive, which has a 500 watt rated with a 22 amp continuous controller, I think, and max it's a bit higher than that. And then of course the previous M1, M2 versions of me, almost killing myself going up that particular stretch on, well, the setting was maximum 15 amps. I did a sort of disturber, I didn't get the watts as I was going up that worst bit, which I should have done. But anyway, see what we got for temperature. Okay, controller temperature is 66. So that's pretty respectable given the amount of work that it's been doing. It would have dropped a little bit because I didn't get the temperature as soon as I got to the top of the hardest bit, but it's certainly been working all the way, so it hasn't been resting. Now the top speed cutoff is cut off, and let's see, I got it at 35 and it doesn't come in. 32, 29, 20, so the assistance plugged back in at 29 kilometers an hour. Right, well, drop the assistance level for this next little bit because I don't need it as much. Now it's just a case of liking it. So I'm in level 2 and putting out 300 watts. Let's go down to level 1, see where we get to. Level 1, 220 watts, 190, 175, sitting at about 175. A slight downhill. I'm going 29 kilometers an hour. And the hill picks up. We'll just pick up the wattage. So for this undulating stuff, for an old fella like me, 40% of 18 amps maximum, or 335 watts, is lovely. So we'd be dealing with maybe 3% inclines, maybe peaking at 4 at some points, but a bit of up, a bit of down. Right. There isn't a great convoy of cars coming up the hill There's a Y intersection here, you just get a snip of what's coming. Can't hear anything, didn't see anything. Away we go. What are we in? Turn the lights on. One criticism of the DM02 amongst the chat is the lack of integrated lighting circuits at the moment, or there are, but you have to request them specifically, apparently. I wasn't given the choice when I got my motors 6 months ago, and so I have my lighting independent, which is fine by me. It means I can run the lights at the full 48 volts, and when I'm riding at night up these hills, there's nothing else but the lights I've got, and so I want as much as I can get, funnily enough. Right, so I'm going to kick up very quickly, probably getting up to 4%, and it's going to quickly check up to 8%. I'll go up to level 3, 60% max of 18 max, and drop a cog. Now, I created a segment around the corner called Woodland Rise. It's a full, I guess up to about different days, Strava argues with itself, somewhere between 13 and 17%. Possibly depends on what line I take. And here we go. Power level 4. 80%. Now, on the Shimano steps, E8000, I was able to maintain 21 degrees around here. So, I've bumped it up to level 5, and pushing it around at 21. So I'm happy with that. Right, this is getting up to about the highest point. So, controller temperature 59. That's well within its comfort zone. It's not going to get any hotter than that. I'll stop in about 1.5 kilometres. That's a nice safe place to stop. And I'll get the external temperatures. Just so I can now, that's interesting. It cut off at 35. I got my max speed limit at 35. It cut off and it feathered back in very nicely at 34. So non-throttle temperature is 62. 0.8, 0.9, 63. The reason why I do the external temperatures is because although I put the temperature sensor in the TSDZ2, I've got no idea. I haven't configured it yet. I was having troubles leaking up into the controller or whatever, so the temperature sensor's there, but I'm not able to read it. And I thought I'll just take external temperatures. Again, not accurate, but it's a guide. And you know, I get it. The daytime, nighttime, days are getting shorter now. Daylight savings changed to real time. So for this particular shift, I'm riding in the cooler part of the evening than I was 3 weeks ago when I was doing the same shift. So the variables are immense. So everything's just a guide. I don't live on the set of the Truman Show. Okay, so here we are, we're coming up to the Ashton Co-op cold store where I take my first set of temperatures. Stay. And the controller's saying 58.6. Now I found in the past this sort of 2.7 mark here was often the hottest bit, but we'll just wave it around. This little gun, you know, is probably reasonably accurate, but it doesn't matter if I'm using the same gun all the time. And we've got 44.9 on the external max. The last measurement it took was 40 degrees. So 44.9, I can't take a photo of that, I've got one on the camera. Right, let's get going. This next stretch is Woods Hill Road again, but it is a very pretty bit of road. Not so much this time of the night. And so dealing with temperatures isn't an issue. My cheapy voltimeter is saying we're on about 48 volts. So we'll get up and we'll lower the assistance level a little bit. Oh, come on. Just move you across. Okay, come on. There we go. Oh. Yeah, I wonder what that did to the heat of it. Anyway, back to spinning. Right, so really this little motor is going leaps and bounds. I've had issues with it, but they're as much personal issues as anything to do with 2.7 and the motor. Same motor, so clearly no issues with it, it's powering along. But I was experimenting with higher amperages than were, well, no, they were the ones that were being touted, and I was given the go ahead to test its limits, and certainly didn't test the limits of the motor, but certainly did test the limits of the programming, not even the controller. And there's a lot to like about this little controller. You know, it gives you a temperature, and it gives you cadence, and it gives you voltage, and all sorts of useful little bits of information. And you've got a range of profiles which you can program it to, and they are all able to be changed and programmed differently if you've got the brains, and I don't. So the whole kit now is very respectable. But anyway, as I said, I blew up a couple of controllers, and that meant it's okay, I can see you. Yeah, I blew up the controllers, and then when I was putting them back in, I had my own little set of stresses, I guess. Tried to rush it. I managed to cut some wires on both of them, because the tolerances, which makes the heat dissipation of these motors so good, meant that I shared the wires. Just a couple, but enough. And then I had to go away, and then had to play catch up with the property and work. So I've only just got the motor fixed, just as this new firmware came out. And it's like meeting an old lover and getting on better because you're wiser, because the new firmware is, I have to say, just very good at the moment, and it can get better. There's some things I'd like to see it do. I'd like to see it feather. Yeah, I'd like to see it when it gets to the top speed. It can be a bit sudden. You don't notice, well, I don't notice it going up the hills as I do, because I don't get up to the top speed so much. But when you're in these undulations, you can get up to the top speed like I have now, and there's no resistance. Let's see when the resistance, when assistance came in at 31. So again, 4 kilometers an hour lower, and then 35, 36, oh, there, cut out at 38 on the screen. But instead of it having such a rapid on-off feel, having it feather maybe from about 3 kilometers an hour before would be nice. So you don't kind of feel as like you've been dumped. I'm just going to slow down here and let a few cars pass. An EV, Kia, nice. Rightio, down my power levels to 0. I don't want any assistance going down the driveway. Actually, no, I will. I'll put it on level 1. And see if you can hear. Now, my trip screen or whatever, and my anyway, my talk screen and my trip screen is showing nothing, because I'm doing nothing. I get the foot up as I start pedaling, but there's no effort, no weight on the pedals, and so it's putting no power in. And so, you know, it's really predictable. Before the M1 or M2 version, it would zoom you all along a bit, and going down a steep hill like that, you don't want it. Anyway, folks, that'll do for today. Bye bye. And I was a bit too quick. So home voltage, temperature, the maximum is 34.6, and the ambient temperature on the front mud guard is 12 degrees. So that's what the temperatures are. My voltage is 48.5, and I have to trim the time of the trip because I had a bit of faffing around at the beginning, but it was probably around about 35 minutes, which is pretty standard. Okay, that'll do.